Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're going to go over my second place slash top 4 King Piccolo deck profile from the NJ 1K event. And then we're going second place in Swiss, and then once we got to the top 4, I did win my top 8 match. We ended up just deciding to split top 4 so we can kind of just go home early, get some food, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I chose to play King Piccolo. I honestly wanted to really play something new from Evolution Booster, but I just couldn't get my hands on the cards. I wanted to either play Android 21 or Tien. Again, just couldn't get my hands on the cards. So I chose to play something new that I haven't really played before. I chose to play King Piccolo over like Blue Yellow Gohan or like Dark Broly. Again, just to play something new and fresh. I know you guys have seen a lot of King Piccolo profiles lately, but I'll just go over my list and just kind of show you where I went differently. I think when you're playing red this format, there are a lot of room for tech cards. Like you have your deck's integral cards, like King Piccolo has the symbol, the piano, all that stuff, the instruments, and then Launch has like your Piccolo, sometimes your red blue stuff, and that's all integral to the deck. But I think there's a decent amount of room for tech cards, so we'll kind of talk about where I went with that. So we'll go over the profile today. If you guys are new here, definitely subscribe, hit that bell so miss video. If you guys want to support the channel, if you want to buy any of the cards you see in today's video that you're interested in, use my link down in the description to TCG Player. It does help out a lot. That being said, we'll get started. I won't really go over the leader too much. The only thing I will say about the leader is, obviously, starting at 6th life is kind of nuts. There are only a few matchups that's really scary, though. The only matchup that's really scary is actually Reboot Gohan, which luckily no one really played at the event. I was able to dodge it if there were any. I think there's maybe one in the room. But yeah, that's the only really bad matchup where starting at 6 is a big deal. Like, even Red Broly is very winnable for this deck because you have such good red defensive tools. The other thing about the leader is obviously no draw power, so you do rely on a lot of outside cards to get your draw engines going, which can be a bit rough. Like most decks in Dragon Ball Super, if you don't really draw like your turn 1 or your turn 2, you can still pretty much play the game. And you can to a degree in King Piccolo, but like one of the common complaints you'll hear from King Piccolo players is, oh, I didn't draw piano until turn 4, I didn't draw my Unison until turn 4. Like, you do really need those outside drawing cards that let you draw cards since your leader does not. You really kind of need those early, so you will kind of mulligan for those. So we'll kind of go with the most optimal turn 1 play. We have 4 of the piano. I see people play 3 of this, and I really just don't get it. Like, this is your best turn 1 play. Yeah, we do play 2 copies of the Piccolo 1-drop Searcher, but piano is just so much better than the Piccolo Searcher. I kind of wish I played 3 because I wanted to have the opportunity to evolve more on top of this guy, and we'll see what evolves on top of him in just a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to play 4 piano. I really can't see a universe where 3 is okay. But yeah, the 2 1-drop Piccolo Searchers definitely could have been 3. I almost, again, wish it was 3, but I did make some concessions for some tech cards in the main deck. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Moving along, we're playing 4 of the Piccolo Unison. It's got to be one of the best Unisons in the game, if not the best Unison in the game. And when you kind of like look at that, you know, people look at like 4-drop Makikabora, even though it doesn't see a whole lot of play anymore. Only really like Control Sin plays it. Some mecha players sideboard it. But that Unison gives you so much value for how much you pay for it. And once it gets on the board, it's not really leaving. And then you compare something to Piccolo, which is actually pretty easy to remove, but just for the 2 energy investment, you get so much out of it. It's really insane. Like, I think a lot of Set 13 decks are going to continue to play this card, even though they have their own like kind of main board Unisons. I think this is just the best red Unison in the game. Jiren's good, but this is just the best one. And I'm just talking about in more general red scenarios. Obviously, in King Piccolo, you're playing 4 of the Descendant because it's searchable and it really synergizes with your deck, and you need the draw power from outside sources, like I mentioned. 3 of the Piccolo Jr. TP negate. This card is really insane, but the fact that it has unique definitely holds it back a little bit, and the fact you can only negate with it once per turn. So both of those kind of hard once per turn types of things do kind of hold it back. I think 3 is a great number, though. Like, it is searchable if you need it. Hard drawing it. Like, actually, so in my mulligan, right, a lot of times I would keep a piano, I would keep a Unison, and if I had both of those already and I saw one of these, I would actually keep this because so many players and so many decks just want to remove your Unison early. So having the negate, once you already have your other best, you know, turn 1, turn 2 play, if you hard open this, I would just keep it in the mulligan because I want to be able to protect my Unison as much as possible. But moving along with more Unison related stuff, we're playing 4 copies of Yamcha Merciless Barrage. This is actually one of the cards that makes a matchup like Red Broly really, really winnable for King Piccolo. Yeah, it's a bit tougher going second, but going first and getting your Unison established before they actually get to do their like pop off turn 2, this thing is just insane. Like, Yamcha's insane in formats where you can reliably resolve him in window 2, right? Like, if there were a lot of decks just playing cards on curves, like hard casting cards, Yamcha would not be nearly as good, but I am playing 4 copies. I think 3 is okay, but honestly, even at 4, there was times I wanted him and didn't see him. So I think I would continue to play 4. I can see 3 being okay, but like I said, there were times I wanted him, didn't have him, and he's not searchable like a lot of the other cards in the deck, so I would definitely keep him at 4. Then for our instrument lineup, we have 3 Tambourine, only 3 of him because he is unique, so you can't really spam him to the board. Then we do have our 4 Symbols. Cards incredible for giving you extra draw power. Like, a lot of times what I'll do is, on my turn 2, if I'm able to awaken and whatnot, which you're almost always able to awaken on turn 2, I would attack, you know, use my leader skill, put him into play, and then I would combo some random other demon clan in my hand to use his activate main to give my Unison another marker and also draw a card. So yeah, like on that combo, you're only cycling, you're not really plussing, but the great thing there is you're bumping your Unison up by another marker, making it more tough to kill, which in a lot of matchups, you really want your Unison to survive almost all the time if you can allow it. Then we have 4 copies of Drum. This card is just like, I think people know how good this card is, but it's really just like an unexpected MVP. Like, just being a barrier blocker leaves you so safe, both for defense, like, you know, your opponent can't really get through this blocker easily, but also for offense, like things that interact with battle cards during battle, having barrier protects you from a lot of that stuff. So it's such a good card. It's amazing. So those were all the instruments there. Then we're playing 2 copies of King Piccolo First Set to Revival. So I gotta say, when this card was first revealed, I thought this card was actually really, really bad, because I was like, why would you want to take a instrument out of your life and play it and not replace a life like your leader does, right? But actually, a lot of times, people are stalling you as King Piccolo. They're stalling you at like 5 or higher life. Like kind of on purpose, but also usually not on purpose. Like, they're just attacking your Unison, right? So when they're attacking your Unison, 1, you can't use your leader skill, and 2, you're not able to take life down to 4. And we do play a 4 life super combo, so when we want to kind of go in, we need to be able to take life. So playing 2 of this was excellent. It's searchable, and just having it is really, really good. And it's actually nice because it's almost like a pseudo super combo. Like in those instances you're going for game, and let's say you have like 2 or 3 life. If you're going all in, you want every single resource possible. So comboing this to get another life out to combo it just turns it into a pseudo super combo in those scenarios, which is super high value. And then we are playing 3 copies of King Piccolo New Ruler. Not playing Overwhelm this build. I don't really mind a 1 of Overwhelm in this deck. I'm kind of following my teammate Justin's logic on this. This is definitely the Overwhelm of the deck because you should almost always have your Unison in play. It's very searchable and it's not too hard to find. So this is the quote-unquote Overwhelm of the deck. I really wouldn't mind playing a 1 of Overwhelm, but again, for space reasons, I chose not to play it. We are playing 2 copies of King Piccolo Time to Fight. So the main way you're evolving this guy into play is either over this guy after usually swinging with him because he is a 20k double striker, or the 1-drop King Piccolo. I did actually want to drop him more than I was able to. So for those reasons, I would consider playing a 1/3 of this, but really probably a 1/3 of the 1-drop Piccolo because, I don't know, I feel like this guy can maybe be clunky in too many copies. He is, again, searchable off that 1-drop King Piccolo, so maybe playing 1 more of the 1-drop King Piccolo would solve that issue. But it did come in clutch when I needed it. It just, there were a few times I did want to play it where I wasn't quite able to. And in this build, we're playing 3 Toppos. So I don't know, this is interesting because I think we're actually not in a very aggressive format right now. Like, all the King aggro decks just aren't really too much of a thing anymore, but the mid-range decks like Dark Broly, Mecha Frieza, their go-in turns, they're able to put on a lot of attacks like an aggro deck. So it might be like their turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, but they can put on quite a lot of attacks. So while like Red Broly and aggro decks like that aren't too popular, I wanted to go with 3 Toppo. 1, to conserve some side deck space. I didn't really want to like main 2 inside 1. I felt like that would just be a little bit suboptimal. And 2, again, for like those mid-range decks for their all-in turns, Toppo is still an MVP card. People aren't really playing answers to Toppo nowadays. Like, blue is probably the best example of a deck that can answer Toppo in the main, and some like red decks can answer it post-sideboard with like Omen of Awakening and stuff. But it actually was really good. Like, again, against those mid-range decks, it was quite nice. Against blue, for instance, like I played against Fusamasu twice that tournament, and actually, believe it or not, blue and Fusamasu have a pretty good King Piccolo matchup if you play it incorrectly. Like, you don't want to focus on their Unison, even though Zeno is a really strong Unison, even though Zeno can wipe your board. You really just want to go face, and you want to be able to stop them from putting on too much pressure onto your Unison particularly. They're not actually going to attack your life too much. So Toppo, like, just stopping their turn, and it might bait out like a Trunks Godsealing technique, but honestly, doing that was pretty okay, because if they Godsealing Toppo, right? And let's say they attack your Unison a bunch, maybe they successfully clear it, maybe you have like a Piccolo Jr. negate to stop them from clearing it, and it stays like 1 or 2 markers. Your Toppo got negated, sure, but you got to bait one of their best cards, which is their Godsealing technique Trunks, and you didn't even take any damage. So in that scenario, it's pretty win-win, and that came up quite a bit. It's a really specific example, but I really like 3 Toppo. I don't know, I wouldn't go with 2. I feel like I just wouldn't see it when I really needed it. And we are playing 4 copies of Piccolo Super Combo. Main reason people play this is because it is searchable in the deck and you can like put it in your life in a pinch, which actually did come up 1 round. So if this was Raditz, for instance, I would have actually missed on my leader skill on the unawakened side to actually put a Namekian in my life face up. That would have been a really big feels bad. Came up 1 game though, so I mean, maybe you could do a 2-2 split on Raditz. Like, the extra draw power of Raditz would be super nice, and actually putting some of the instruments back in the deck could be relevant, but I chose to go for Piccolo, and it worked out well. We are playing 1 Further Instruction Champa. I kind of wanted to play 2, but again, just kind of wanted to make some concessions in the deck for things like the extra Toppo and whatnot. The 1 was actually really good. I saw it when I needed it, but a lot of times you don't actually need Champa to end the game because you had the Piccolo Jr. with Double Strike, so that works out well. Notice, too, I'm not playing the 6-drop King Piccolo. I think it's a bit more of just like a win more card. Really don't think you need it all that much. And we are playing another one of the Supreme Kai of Time, Space Time Unraveler. This is clearly the best secret in the deck, possibly the best secret in the game. But one thing I want to mention is, like, if you don't have this card, which is totally understandable, if you have the Frieza Army Reborn SCR, I think it's actually a pretty good SCR for this deck considering the format that we're in. Like, you're playing against a lot of yellow, red, and black that can't answer that card. Even green can't answer that card. Blue would be the only one that can answer it, so it might be a little rough in that matchup. But against every other deck in the meta, you can play Army Reborn, wipe their board, and pick a really meaningful card out of their hand. That's actually pretty good in my eyes. Like, in the King Piccolo Mirror, for instance, you play that, look at their hand, take a card, and wipe all their drums. That's really solid. So if you're expecting a lot of mirrors, I think Army Reborn is actually a really playable card. But yeah, I played Kai because I have it. Playing 2 Attack with the Demon Clan, I kind of bounced back between 2 and 3 of this. It actually didn't come up all that much where I wanted to use it, so I think 2 is actually a really good number for me. The thing with the deck is, like, turn 1, turn 2, you want to use all your energy, like to play a piano, then to play a Unison. But turn 3 onwards, your energy is super flexible, which makes this a great mid-range deck, at least in my eyes. So that was the main reason for that. Like, another one of this could have been cool to use more proactive energy, but I actually use a lot of my energy defensively rather than offensively. And then we played 4 Violet Rays in the main deck. Super interesting thing here, like, I never used, I think I used the Floodgate effect of Violet Rays 1 round. I think that was it. I didn't really play against any Dark Broly, and this card, I think, is single-handedly really pushing Dark Broly out, so we might get to a point where, like, King Piccolo maybe means, like, 2 of these, and then, like, Dark Broly maybe makes a comeback, and you have 2 of these in the sideboard. Like, there's some really weird meta fluctuations that can happen there, but, yeah, I mean, you could play, like, Wolfen Fist instead of this card in particular if you don't expect a lot of Dark Broly, but using this as a one-off negate is still fine. There's not a lot of things that Wolfen Fist can kill on its own anyway, so in those scenarios, like having this as a one-off negate and having Wolfen Fist as a regular one-off negate, I think is fine. So I just went to main the 4 Violent Rays. And now we'll take a look at the side deck. So I got to shout out Justin Rios, my teammate. I actually just played his exact side deck from PPG Miami. I'll talk about, you know, how effective it was for me. Frieza Death Ball was incredible. This card was so good. Like, in matchups where Violent Rays was dead or matchups where any other cards in my deck were dead, this card always had usage, so I brought it in quite a bit, and it was really, really good. Just the 1 energy 25k combo, it's so efficient, like helping you go for game. You can also use this to clear battle cards. Like, you can use this to clear BMS or like the 5-drop DV6 Demigiraffe, for instance. Like, you can tech into it, and they can't really save it when you combo 25k. But that didn't really come up much. I really used this card just for going for game, and it was so good when cards in my deck were dead to side out. We did play 3 Wolfen Fist. This was more so for when Violent Rays in particular was dead, so I did bring it in against a lot of my blue matchups, which was pretty good. I like this card a lot. You could sideboard 4 for the logic of like just taking out all 4 Violent Rays and bringing in all 3 of these, or all 4 of these rather, but I think 3 is fine, and again, conserving side deck space, 3 of this was totally acceptable. Then we played 3 Broly Crown of Retribution, another MVP side deck card. A lot of times King Piccolo can struggle with blue, and Broly Crown of Retribution does help fix the blue matchup. They're going to leave a decent amount of energy open, so looking at this in particular against like Blue Baby, taking their Gohan Baby's minions, taking their Heroic Prospect Trunkses, and just knowing like what kind of defense they have for the turn. Like, if you take their only Floodgate, do they have any other negates? Maybe they have like 1 more negate. Great, you can kind of go in there, so that's really good. And then we have 3 copies of Kaioken Goku Concentrated Destruction. I actually never brought this card in, but I didn't really play against any mirror matches, and I didn't play against any decks playing Bojack or Invoker. So I didn't play the matchups where this would have been relevant, but I wouldn't change this. Like, 3 of this in the sideboard for just about any red deck is absolutely incredible. Then we got 2 Denial of Hopes. So I played Denial of Hope over Omen of Awakening. I don't own Omen of Awakening, so I played this instead, and man, look at these winter stamped Denial of Hopes. They're so beautiful, so I'm not really upset I played these. I actually didn't bring it in at all because, again, I didn't play against red, so I didn't have any Toppos to stop, stuff like that. I maybe would have brought it in against Blue Baby to stop things like Baby's Minion and Heroic Prospect, but did not play against those matchups. And finally, 2 Koitsukai. would maybe consider finding space for a third one for the mirror match and for yellow decks that play Arrivals and Arrival decks in general, like Launch. But yeah, 2 is okay as well. Maybe cutting 1 Denial of Hope for another one of those would have been okay. But overall, I mean, I like the side deck a lot, so I got to shout Justin out for that one. Do appreciate his input on that. But anyways, guys, that's deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you guys enjoy seeing the decks I play when I go to tournaments and stuff. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.